Hello, I'm Lisa Jones. Here I'll introduce you to 9 easy steps you can take to quickly master the wonderful world of patchwork and quilting. This video demystifies these crafts and will set you on the right path. You'll soon be creating your own beautiful pieces of textile art. Your first step is to choose your technique. Patchwork involves sewing small pieces of fabric together to form a larger piece. The pieces may be regular shapes to create a repeated pattern, or irregular, forming a random design. Historically, patchwork is one of the original recycling techniques. Traditional patchwork was sewn by hand, but today it can be hand or machine sewn, mainly using new fabrics. Many techniques look complex, but are easy once you know how. So decide what you would like to achieve and whether you are drawn more towards handwork or machine work. Step 2. Plan your techniques. Think what you will use your first piece for. Rather than tackle a full bed quilt, it may be better to choose something smaller, such as a table runner, cushion cover, or a panel for a shopping bag. Often designs are based on blocks, squares or occasionally rectangles, that are joined together to form a larger piece. Sometimes the blocks are repeated, but they can all be different. Some techniques, such as patchwork without measuring, don't require accuracy but can be very effective. Small squares, all the same size, joined together form a good design to start with. Step 3. What fabric will you need? The easiest fabric to work with is 100% cotton. There are numerous patchwork fabric designs to choose from, often coming in themes or families with perhaps 4 or 6 related colorways or patterns that will tone well together. Intersperse a simple plain colored fabric between obvious complex patterns, especially when working with blocks. Strips of plainer fabric between blocks are called sashing. This forms a frame for the complex fabrics. Step 4. Buying patchwork fabric. Almost all measurements for patchwork designs, patterns and cutting instructions are in inches rather than centimetres. But fabric is sold by the metre, at least in the UK, rather than the yard. Patchwork fabric suppliers usually offer several types of pre-cut fabrics, such as a fat quarter. This is a piece of fabric approximately 22 inches by 20 inches. It's amazing how much you can do with a few fat quarters. The jelly roll from the company Moda has 2.5 inch wide strips cut across the full width of the fabric, usually around 44 inches wide, and often 42 pieces, all different but from the same collection or colour range. Numerous patterns can be made using a jelly roll. There are other pre-cut fabrics, such as batches of 5-inch squares, usually all from different fabrics, and called a charm pack. Step 5. What about colour? Choose 1 or 2 main colours that you like and add one completely different colour, sometimes called a zinger. On a colour wheel, pick several shades near one another, then select your zinger from the opposite side of the wheel. You will only need a small amount of the zinger. Step 6. What about equipment? Like all hobbies, patchwork has its own distinct equipment, although you need very little to start. Piecing is the term used for joining cut pieces of fabric together. You can piece by hand or by machine. If you piece by hand, you need little more than good fabrics, fabric scissors, needles and threads. If machine piecing, obviously you need a sewing machine. You may have heard patchworkers talk about rotary cutters. Please do not use rotary cutters without first getting expert advice from someone qualified to show you how. Rotary cutters are extremely sharp. That said, when used properly, they are the best way to cut pieces of fabric accurately. Step 7. Hand piecing. Hand piecing can be very relaxing, producing exquisite work, but it takes time. Traditional hexagon templates are best pieced by hand. You can buy pre-cut paper hexagons, or you can use plastic templates when cutting your fabric. An easy way to create hexagon patchwork with extra strength is to use a fusible or iron-on interfacing on the back of your fabric hexagons. Step 8. Machine piecing. Machine piecing is quick and the results are strong. Many patchwork designs can be achieved just using straight stitch. If you want to sew by machine, but do not currently have a sewing machine, you do not need an all-singing, all-dancing model. A small number of fancy stitches can be useful. For example, a machine-sewn fly stitch or similar can be very useful if you decide to move on to machine applique. And for the last of your 9 steps, where do you go now? Decide how you prefer to learn. There are many books with instructions for beginners, or you may prefer to use DVDs, and of course there are lots of videos on YouTube. You can join a patchwork group that meets regularly, perhaps once a week or once a month, or virtually via the internet. Some groups have tutors, while others are less formal, with individual members helping one another to develop their skills. But be warned, this is an addictive hobby. Once hooked, you will find that you delight in creating your own designs, which you can turn into unique pieces of textile art. Do leave a comment below and be sure to subscribe. And if you would like me to create a video for you, just tell me the topic in the comments below.